Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial of Salesforce Makes Sense. This is Himanshu and we are continuing our Lightning Web Components masterclass. In the last tutorial, what we did was the Zodiac sign messenger, and we created this particular component right here, very neat and sleek component wherein you actually fill in your information and the date of birth, based on which it understood what Zodiac sign are you from, and it gave you a bit of information about yourself, right? And I see that a lot of people have actually made this component and they have posted more like a video screen recording on LinkedIn, and they have uploaded it into a Experience Cloud portal. So kudos to you guys are doing great, and these kind of practices will make you perfect very soon, don't worry. All right, great. Now moving on to newer tutorials, as in the next part of the curriculum. Now we want to understand another topic that's called component composition. All right, now what is component composition? It's nothing but the way or the idea of having modular components working hand in hand with each other, right? What does that mean? That means if I have given you a task of maybe which is a very humongous or a very big task, you're not going to do it all together. You're going to break it down into pieces and then you're going to achieve it one by one in milestones, right? Similarly, in LWC components, you cannot have your entire code in a single LWC component, right? So it's always better to modularize and kind of couple things together, but kind of modularize them into individual components. Let's say a specific kind of a functionality can be achieved with one LWC component. That component can be reused at different places, right? That's where component composition comes in picture, and this is basically the ability of LWC to allow you to nest more than one LWC components within an LWC component. Okay, now I have this topic written here, which is owner, container, parent, child and grandchild, and we'll look at each of them via creating a Lightning Web component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an owner component, I'm going to create a container, I'm going to create a child, I'm going to create a grandchild, and you'll understand the hierarchy and you'll understand how to pass data from one component to another and how does all of this work. Make sense? Cool. So before understanding the topic on the keynote, let me go ahead and create a new component, and I'm going to call it owner component. All right. And let's go here and I'll go to the HTML. This is my owner component. All right. Nothing to be done for now. I'll just go ahead and say this should be true, and I'll put the targets here as usual. All right, I'm going to take the home page and let's take the app page, just the two targets. Perfect. Deploy. All right, so that's my base component stuff. This is something that I practice every time. You guys already know it, right? It's good to do the stuff first, deploy it, and then start working on it. All right, now what I would like to do is I would actually want to display a list of products with their rating. Okay, I'm not taking anything from the database yet because we have not reached that level for now, but I'll be using a static object. Okay, so I'll be taking this information. Now I'm on the owner component. What I want to do is I want to nest it with another component, basically another LWC component. So let me go ahead and create another component. I'll call it parent, or let's say the container component. Okay, in this component I'm going to just go into the HTML. Looks like it has just created the JS and this file. I'm going to create a HTML file here. Okay, it is there. Cool. So the container component.html, this is my container component. Okay, now that I've created my container component, I want to use it in my owner component. So what is the way to compose it here? Basically, you go ahead and take the name of your component. So what is the name of the component? It is called container component, correct? And I think we have discussed this before. What are you going to do? You're going to go here, put a hyphen, make the C small, and then append it with C hyphen. This is how you are going to basically call your container component from your owner component. Makes sense? What did I do? I converted the camel case into kebab case. That's all I did, and I put a namespace, which is the C namespace. Okay, C hyphen for every component, and then you have to put the name of the component. Now if LWC has to resolve it, it will take this name it will remove the hyphen, make it capital, then it will find, is there any component? Yeah, I found a component, and it will display this information. That's what it is going to do internally. All right, let's give it a try. Let's go and say deploy. The owner component is deployed, and let me deploy the container component. Okay, so it is not deployed because I did not deploy the container component first. Container is deployed. The owner should be now deployed. Done. Let's go to Salesforce. Let's say edit page, and let's get our component on the page. All right, let me get this guy down here, and let's bring the owner component here. All right, let's say save. Let's go back, and now we should start seeing our owner component. See, owner component followed by the container component. All right, so if you notice, the container component is coming from the child component here. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the parent component right now is the owner component, and the child component is the container component, right? That's how you have been able to display information. Now we'll go one level deep. So what I want to do is I want to have another placeholder for a child component here. That's what I'm wanting to do. Okay, this child component is nothing but another LWC component. I'm going to create it with the right nomenclature, and I'm going to go to the HTML file, and I'll say child component, and then I'll do the same here, and I'll say grandchild component. All right, which means I have to create one more component, which is going to be another component, grandchild component. In the grandchild component, I'm going to go to the HTML and say this is my grandchild. So far so good. Save. I'll put a BR tag here so that all the lines are segregated. I'll go back to my child component. I'll put a BR tag here. This is nothing but a break tag. It creates a line in between so that everything is in a different line. All right, great. Now, so that I am able to see this information on the screen a bit properly, you know what is my favorite tool? Lightning card. I'm going to use a card, right? And I'm going to just wrap this up with a card. All right, and I'll just do the indentation properly so that it looks like it is inside a card, and I'll put a title here, and I'll call it component composition. So far so good. I know I did it very fast, but it's very basic stuff that we are doing right now. Okay, let's get rid of all of this. Grandchild, container, child. So now what all do I have to deploy? Let me deploy the grandchild first, because if I don't deploy this, I'll not be able to deploy the child component. Now I'll deploy the child component. Done. Now I'll deploy the container component or the parent component. Done. Now I'll deploy the owner component. So 4 LWC components hosting 4 information have been composed one into the other. And now if I were to refresh my screen, you should see a card showing up with all of this information. See, right? So if you notice, the owner component comes from the first LWC, which is nesting the container component. The container component is nesting the child is nesting the grandchild. Is there a limit to it? There's no such limit. You can nest as long as you want. But the idea here is that you are successfully able to compose components, meaning you can now build utilities and you can use them across modules. So if you have a small utility that is working in scenario A and you have a similar requirement for another business in scenario B, you can simply pick that component up from there and just, use it like this. Make sense? All right. Now coming back to the keynote, the owner is the component that owns the template. So if you notice here, who is owning this particular entire template? The owner component, the top level component. Okay. It hosts the components within it and is responsible for setting the public variables on composed components. So now we'll talk about responsible for setting public variables in a while, but just understand that the owner is the component that is going to own the template. So meaning if I go to VS Code, the owner component is owning everything: container, child, grandchild. How do you prove that? If you notice, my owner component JS meta file is exposed. None of the other components have been exposed, but you are still able to see it, correct? That's because the owner is owning it. If the owner is exposed, it can take care of all the child components. You don't have to expose every single component to true and map it to target configs. You don't have to do that. No, not needed. Okay, why? Because the owner is taking care of it for you. Make sense? The next thing, it is also capable of calling methods from composed components. We'll look at it in a while. It can also listen to events fired by the composed components. We'll look at it in a while. A container is a component. Now the container is a component that contains other components but is itself contained within the owner component. In this scenario, I have named it exactly the way, but if you see, the owner component is the top level component, whereas there is one component that's called the container, which again hosts another component. So it's kind of sandwiched in between, correct? So the sandwiched component is called a container component. It is not the owner, it is not the grandchild or the child, but it is somewhere in the between, more like acting as a parent for someone else. Okay, can I say that the child component is also a container component? Yes, because it is again hosting another grandchild component inside it. Make sense? Very straightforward stuff, very simple stuff. Cool. Now let's get into the real deal. We have created a mock, more like, talking components which are talking to each other. Good, amazing. But what if I had to pass information from my owner component to my container component? How would I do that? I think you already know. You have to create a API variable @API. When you want the owner to pass any values to its composed component, we use the API decorator, right? So how is this going to work? Let me close the child and the grandchild for now. Let me close this section for now. Let me go to the container component. Okay, I've given the names properly so that you understand it well. If I go to the container component and I want to actually create a variable that is called products found. Okay, this is the variable name. Okay, and I'm going to say false. Let's say by default it is set to false, and I want to use this particular component here, this particular variable here. Okay, now if I say did I find any products, and let's put this particular here, and let's say deploy. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong option. Let's say deploy. Let's refresh, and you see on the container component it is saying that I did not find anything. It is set to false, right? Perfect, fine. But now I want this information to come from the owner component. It should not be stored on the container component. Now how do I get this information from my owner component? Meaning I have to pass this information to the container. How do I pass it? By taking the name, converting it to kebab case, and then passing a value. Correct? If I were to do this and I say deploy, would it work? Deploy it, fine. Let's go to Safari. Let's refresh and let's see what is the value. It is still false, because the information that you're passing from the owner to the container is not accepted as a public variable because it is not marked as @API. Now that you mark it as @API and include that in your namespace from LWC in the import statement, now you can say that yes, I am accepting information from a parent component and I can take that value to show. Okay, if I were to refresh it now, you see the value is now coming as true. And now this is cascading from the parent component, and this is how you can actually pass any and every kind of information from your parent to your child. Make sense? All right. Let me put a BR tag here as well so that you are able to see this information a bit better. Okay, so now what you have been able to do, you have been able to take information from the owner component and you have been able to pass it to a child component. In this case, this is the container component. Cool. So that was a very basic idea of how to pass information from parent to child. Very simple. Now you might ask, Himanshu, can I do this for any and every kind of variable? Yes, you can do it for any and everything. String, yes. Date, yes. Boolean, yes. Date time, yes. Object, yes. Array, yes. Any and everything. This is why I'm going to jump into the next topic, which is how to pass data from parent to child where the data type is a non-primitive data type. Okay, now what am I going to do? I am going to go to my owner component, go to my owner component JS file, and I'm going to just create a product list. All right, this product list is going to contain array of objects. All right, so I'm going to say ID is equal to 1, name is equal to, let's say, I'll put a name here, that's okay, and price is equal to, let's not put a price, maybe put a rating. Okay, let's put a rating 3 out of 5, and let's take this information and copy it for 2-3 more rows. Okay, so this is basically nothing but a array of objects, correct? Because each of this line represents an object, correct? This is 2, this is 3, this is rating 4, this is rating 5. Save. This is, let's say, a MacBook Air, this is, let's say, a MacBook Pro, this is, let's say, humanity. All right, cool. I have this product list with me, which is a non-primitive data type. What is a primitive data type? String, decimal, integer, number, checkbox, boolean, radio, all of that is primitive, right? But non-primitive are objects, array of objects, list, collection, all of that. In this case right now, we have a variable which is not a primitive type. It is a non-primitive data type. Himanshu, can I pass this information from my owner component to my child container component? Yes, you can. So what are we going to do? We are going to go to the owner component. We are going to remove this particular, let's keep this flag, and I'm going to say product list is equal to, remove the quotes and pass the variable value. What did I do? I have created this particular attribute which should be available in the container component. Understand? Okay, now right now this is the point to understand. Whatever I define here as variables have to be defined on the container component. So I'll go to the container component and I'll just copy this for now, okay, so that you understand better. I'll go to the container component, came here, go to JS, I'll just paste it here. Now if you see, products found has been already evaluated as products found, which is a value available here. So this one is fine. But what about this one? This one is not available. So what am I going to do? I'm going to remove the kebab, make it a camel, put a @API, and I'm just going to create this variable because value is going to come from the parent. Makes sense? And I'm going to just display it here. All right, let's go ahead and say deploy. Okay, let's go to the owner component and deploy the owner component also, so that the product list is passed from the owner to the component, container component. Done. Let's go to Safari, refresh. And if you see, there are 3 objects showing up, 3 records. See, array of objects, meaning you have been able to successfully pass a non-primitive data from a component to another child component. Amazing, isn't it? All right. So when passing any non-primitive data like an object to a composed component, @API can be used the same way. Okay. So now if I were to ask you guys, can you now try to show it on the container component in a better way? This is an array of objects similar to what we did last time. What can you do? You can write a for each, conditional rendering, and loops, correct? So I'm going to say for each item in my product list, and always remember, whenever you are putting a variable, right, it should not come within the double quotes. It should not come like this. Okay, this is wrong. It should always come like this. Okay, and then I'll say for item, again, this is a, what do you call it? This is a iterator, correct? So what am I going to do? Here I'm going to use a iterator variable. So this is not going to come as like this. It is going to come as a variable. So I'm going to say product. Okay, and I'm going to say li, and let's say I want to display the product dot name. Instead of li tag, let's use the p tag. Okay, so far so good. Now before hovering over to the error, I want you guys to tell me what is the error. Pause the video and try to tell me what is the error. What error could it be based on what you understood from iterators last time? it is expecting a key, correct? So it is going to expect a key because we are on an iterator. So I'm going to put a key here, and this key is going to be nothing but the ID that I'm receiving as part of my owner component JS. So ID is what I'm going to use here as the key. Name is what I'm going to display to the end user. So far so good. Perfect. Let's deploy this. And let me get rid of the container component thing here. Okay. Let's get rid of this product list object. It will list here. Okay. Deploy again. Let's go to the owner component. Let's get rid of the owner tag. Let's deploy this. Okay, looking a bit neat now, right? Let's go and refresh. The child and grandchild we have not touched yet. But now if you see, did I find any products? True. Yes, I found them. What are the products? MacBook Air Pro and Humanity. Perfect. Information is flowing from a parent component to a child component, even though it is a non-primitive data type. Makes sense? Cool. All right, looks very simple. Looks like, you know, Imanshu, what is this? This is like very basic, but you have actually unlocked a very important and a very powerful tool with this composition concept. Using the @API, you are able to now, you know, pass information between components, and you're able to understand, okay, what to show, what not to show, where to show, how to show, all of that stuff. Cool. What else can you do? You can actually say, you can put a template LWC if I only want to show this information if products found is true. If it is not found, I'm not going to show any of this information. Correct? Save. Let me get rid of this now. I don't need this anymore. And let's deploy. So now, because I'm passing true as the flag here, it is going to evaluate as true, and it is going to show me the information. Okay. Let's refresh and check. It's giving you the information, all the 3 records. What if I passed false from here? And I say save, and I say deploy. Is it going to show anything in the component down below? This information should be invisible now. It should not show that information. Still showing it. Products found is equal to false. Let's go back. If products found is equal to true, yeah, so it should work fine. Let me just deploy again. Let's refresh one more time. It's still showing up. What is the reason? Template LWC if products found. So products found is coming from the owner component, and it is set to false. Let me deploy it one more time. Okay, let's go back, edit page. Still showing up. There's something wrong. Equals false. I think I might have to, let's see. Let's go to our container component and let's print it out first. What is the value coming up? I think the LWC if is creating a confusion. Let's go back. Let's go back. Yeah, it is coming as false if you notice. So, but this LWC if is running. So let me do this if true. What if I do this as if true? Only then proceed. Instead of LWC if, there's another directive that we can use. I just want to check whether this is coming as a string or a Boolean value. Let's check that very quickly. It is coming as false, so it should not have gone inside here, correct? Template. Let's refresh. Yeah, looks like it's not working. So let me do this. Let's go here and let's create a getter instead. Okay, so I'll say get has product, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return this dot products found. If this dot products found is equal to true, okay, in that case return it as true, which is a boolean, or else return it as false. Okay, and I'm going to take this getter method now instead of the products found element to my container component and use this here. Let's see if this works out for us. All right, let's go back, refresh. Yeah, so there was a data type issue with the flag here that we used, which is showing up as false, but it is behaving as a boolean, behaving as a string here. It's not behaving as a boolean. All right, so I'm going to take this as a string here. I might not have to change this here. That's fine. I'll keep it as is. I have to go to the container component, and this is where I'm actually mapping it to a true or a false value, and this is where a getter is coming handy for us, right? So instead of using that flag directly, what I did is I used the value that is coming from the component and accordingly handled it with a true or false boolean flag because it was coming as a string, looks like. Okay, and this getter does not need a variable. Why? Because it is a getter method, right? I have been able to use it directly here. So when I use it here, it is going to look at the JS file and see, is there any getter created for it? Yes, it will calculate this particular value and return the value here. Right now I can again use the LWC if narrative because the other one is going to be deprecated. Let's go back and deploy, and let's verify that the information is only showing up if the flag is set to true. Let's go back here. Let's mark this as true. Let's say deploy. So it's not showing anything right now. After this deployment happens, I'll refresh again and I should start seeing the 3 products. All right, perfect. Works as expected. Awesome. Right? Great. So we have been able to compose information. We have been able to pass information from parent to child. And now what is the next thing I would like to do? Let me take a look at the keynote here. So it's always better to pass data one way to avoid conflicts and confusing the implementation. So do not pass information both ways. Okay, always be very careful. If you need something on the child level, keep it on the child level. But if you need something from the parent in the child information, you pass it from parent to child. That's it. Okay, do not overcomplicate it beyond that. All right, now before jumping into the mutable property that I wanted to talk about, I want to also now start using the child component and the grandchild component, right? What am I going to do is I have the child component here. Let's open the child component.html. So here I'll get rid of this particular flag, and what am I going to do is I'm going to take this container component, copy this line, paste it here. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is I'm going to use the product ID information and the name information from the container into the child. How do I do that? Instead of using this particular thing here, what I can do is I can create instances of my child component, right? And what can I do? I can pass product ID and I can pass product name. How would I pass it? I would just pass it as the variable value product.id product.name. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this particular line right here. All right, now if you notice there's an error coming up. What is the error? Again, pause the video and tell me what could be the error. I'm in an iterator, so the key is mandatory. Key is equal to product.id. All right, cool. What we can do is, instead of giving a key attribute to the component, what we can do is we can create a div here. All right, so that we don't have to exploit our component to pass a key, because then you have to define a variable inside it, which is not needed. Okay, so I'll pass this key here to the div and I'll keep the child component inside my div. Simple. Now there will be no errors because you just need the key on the top level of the iterator. Perfect. So you have done what you needed to do on the container component, right? Now if you see the child component, what have we done? We have created 2 variables. If I take this variable, go to my child component, open the JS file and paste it here. Does it mean, do you think this will start working? No, because you need these variables created in your child level. So I'm going to create that product ID. I'm going to create the product name. See, very simply converting the kebab into camel. All right, I'll get rid of this value from here, get rid of this value from here. And what is the one more thing I need to do? I need to say @API, right? So both of these semicolon variables are declared, but there is an error. Why? Because I have to import that from my namespace. So you see how I am following a very smooth approach to, not have much errors, or else it is very much possible to, reach into a conundrum and everything is going to be hodgepodge, right? Because there are 4 components, but I'm trying to keep it very neat and as clean as possible. Okay. Now in the child component, I have the product ID and product name. So can I use this variable now? Here I can. So I'm going to simply say, I don't need the key here, but I just want to show the product name. So product name is going to not be product.name, but it is going to be the variable that I'm receiving from my parent, which is declared as @API. Cool. Looks good. Let's go ahead and say deploy. I'll deploy this, then I'll deploy the container component. Let's redeploy the owner component so that everything is the latest. Done. Let's go back to Salesforce. Let's refresh. And now if you see, there are each instance for the child component is returning a result, and that's why you see that the grandchild is copied 3 times. Why? Because it is inside the child component. So this is the first iteration, second iteration, third iteration. And in such a simple, easy, clean way, we have been able to take information from owner. The owner, which is right here. We had the information here. Just understand what you did in the last 30 minutes. You had a variable value here. You took it and you sent it to the container component, which again used a iterator. In that iterator, you used a child component. In this child component, you passed values for each of those items in the array, and that has been displayed on the child level. Amazing, isn't it? Cool. Now what I want you guys to do is pause the video here and take up this very short challenge. I'm going to do it after the pause, but what I want you to do is now I still have one more information available with me, which is the rating. Correct? So the rating information is what is going to go to the grandchild component. How do you do that? Just try to solve it and paste the code, or just put a solution, more like an English written solution that Himanshu, this is how I would do it. I have to do this here, I have to do that here, or paste the code. That's also possible. Okay, so pause the video and try to do it on your own. See, we have the product name and the ID showing up on the child component, but I want the product rating to be showing on the grandchild component. Okay, pause the video and try it. And for those of you who are following along, let's get started. What is the ask? That the rating information comes to the grandchild. All right, so first of all, if I were to go to the grandchild, see, we are going to follow that same approach again. So from owner to container, child component is receiving 2 information, but this is not enough. I need to pass the rating also, because I need to pass it to a component below. So I'm going to say product.rating. Let's quickly verify the name, rating, yes, and it is called product, right? So I've created a variable. Let's take this variable and let's go to the child component .js. Do I have a variable here? No, I'm going to create it. So I'll convert the kebab into camel. I'll put the @API. Perfect, variable created. So far so good. Deploy this particular file, deploy the container file, both are deployed. So rating information is now passing from the container to the child component. Now from child, I need to pass it to the grandchild, correct? So what do I have to do? I have to pass it here. Rating is equal to, and I have to say product rating. This is the same flag that I'm maintaining on my JS. I've just taken the value from the iteration, sent it to my grandchild component here. Now that I've created a variable here, I'll go to the grandchild component. How will it receive it? By having the variable created. So because there's no kebab case, because it's a single word, I'm going to say @API rating, and I'm going to import it here. Save, and I'll go to the HTML and I'll say rating is the rating value from the JS file. Let's go ahead and say deploy. 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 Let's deploy everything inside so that we are in sync. All the code is in sync in the org. Waiting for the last deploy. Taking some time, weird. Let's go and refresh our page. Let's see, maybe it's starting to show up, or if it is not, we'll see. Perfect, it is already here. So now if you see, what have you done? What have you done? Just understand the gravity of it. You have 4 components that you are using here in this very small component. The parent component, which is the owner, has this particular title. It is hosting a container component. The container component is not showing anything, but it is passing information to the child component. That child component is giving you these 3 entries, right? And each child component is again passing information to a grandchild component that is giving you the rating. Amazing, isn't it? I'm glad I was able to explain this to you in a in the exact way I wanted you guys to understand it. For those of you for whom it was a bit fast, take a look at the video again, or else take a look at the video in 0.75x. All right, but we have achieved what a lot of people do not understand, how to do it in LWC, which is component composition, and a lot of people are afraid of doing it. Multi components, oh my god, how will I pass information? What if I mess it up? No, it will only mess it up if you have it messed up in your head. If you do it in a cleaner approach, in an approach like how I showed, there's no mess here, correct? And this is the foundation. Now you can do anything with the foundation, and that's why the foundation is important. All right. So in a very short tutorial, might not call it short. What have we understood? We have been able to take a non-primitive data and we have been able to pass that information to 3 levels down. That's one thing. What else we have understood? We have revised our iterators. We have used the key. We have revised a conditional rendering. We have revised getters. We have revised @API. And this now concludes our component composition. Make sense? All right, just put a comment that component composition makes sense or Salesforce makes sense if this tutorial was clear to you. All right, let's go back to our keynote. And there's one more thing I just want you guys to know, that the data that you pass from the parent to child is always going to be read only. Okay, it is immutable, meaning you cannot change it. You cannot basically, let me go back to the code. If I go to the owner component, this is the JS file, that is the product list here, and it is being passed through this product list, correct? Now you cannot change this variable in your child component. That is not possible. What you have to do instead is actually create a copy of your product list that you are receiving from the parent, more like a shallow copy. You can use a spread operator for it, and you can then use that shallow copy. That is what is mentioned here. So to make any kind of changes, see right now what did we do? We simply showed what was on the parent level as is. Correct? But if you have to do some sort of calculation, some sort of iteration, some sort of looping and manipulation, can you do it on the same variable product list? No. It is going to be read only for you. You have to create a copy of it, and then you can use that copy to do all of that stuff that you're wanting to do, to make changes or to update it. All right. So this is an interview question. Are the properties passed from parent to child mutable or immutable? They are immutable, meaning they are always read only. They cannot be modified on the child level. Cool. Great. That was all about this particular tutorial. I hope this was helpful. Do like, comment, share the video, and do comment the code wherever you're trying it. And I hope that you're writing all of this code on your own side as well. Don't just watch the tutorials, try to write it on your own side. You'll make a lot of mistakes and you'll learn from it very, very faster. Okay, great. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.